Okay, a demo on some trees. We were just talking in Zoom about building the structure to the tree. Keep in mind, we don't want to draw all of the branches and then start putting leaves off of the branches. Think of the leaves as clumps. In your PDFs, these guys that I scanned and put in for you, the very last page of the PDF is this one. And I like this because it kind of makes you think about clumps of leaves as balls or sections. Keep in mind, a branch comes off of a tree and then fills out with leaves on that branch, right? So you almost have sections of growth that start to mimic spheres or other shapes. So another shape might be that I have kind of a flattened elliptical shape, but yet when I go in to make that a form, if I put shadow at the bottom side of it, it's going to start to turn into a clump coming towards me. Okay, so we were kind of talking about looking at the general shape of the tree and finding kind of a sense of where the boundary would be. And you may start, I can probably go a little bit lighter pencil now that I don't have such a dark view. As I come in with like my H pencil, I might do some placement, try to figure out just a general kind of form of where my tree is going to go. But I don't want to use that hard edge. I want to start to break that down into some sections. So I'm faking a tree. I'm actually facing the very wrong way in my house right now. I'm not even looking out of a window at this point. So I might see a section in here that kind of pops out over that edge. I may see some branch development in between some of those sections. Okay, so you want to leave some space. If you see some branching in some of these zones, you want to leave a little bit of space in there. Let me go in with the 6B so you can see what I'm talking about. So I may have some shadow in here, but then this clump may have highlight. So I'm going to find shadow, the underside of the clumps, highlight to the top. I might find some branches that start to show up in between some of those spaces. Maybe I've got another clustery clump in here. Maybe it's a little bit larger. So I'm going to utilize some of that open space if I see those areas. Now, what I'm doing right now, where I keep kind of fuzzing around, I'm just building where that shadow is going to end up going. Okay, I might even have a shadowy space in behind. This may have a highlight here. I may have a shadowy clump that fills out most of the back of the volume of this tree. So as I start to bring the tree along, keep in mind the top, I might want that light, but I may need to build some detail to the bottom. Something I love to do to get quick texture with a tree, watch I'm holding this pencil. If I kind of use my lines in a non-traditional way, I'm kind of creating a sense of texture while I'm also creating a dark value up here. And it kind of mimics the full leaves on a tree. So all I'm doing is strokes that change direction, but I'm doing them very tight, very small. And I can control the pressure that way too. So let's go back to the 6B pencil. If I push really hard, I'm going to get a much darker value, right? And then I can lighten that pressure and I can keep moving those lines around and I can start to build up a sense of depth in that tree. I could do this with green pencil. I could do this with a blue pencil and then then put some green in here. I can come back in and kind of put a little bit of value to parts of this just by doing a flat, somewhat flat value on that lower side, and then adding the texture. I need to sharpen that, don't I? Adding some textural element to the top. This top edge up here that still is kind of loose, that could get defined with some negative space value. So I may have some, or color, maybe I have some blues, things like that I'm working with around this structure. So I could be utilizing value to help create that tree form. I can switch pencils and continue in with some of that sporadic line that sort of creates a sense of texture and value. Again, note where I'm putting my finger to get the most pressure. I'm also not holding my pencil upright and really pinpointed, okay? If I keep building this tree, building parts of this tree, maybe let's just kind of work this one little section. I did have a 2B out here somewhere, but I've lost my other pencil. So I'm working with an H and a 6B. I'd use one more pencil in there to kind of get a good in-between value. Okay, but as you keep going, keep in mind, you can always come back in with an eraser. I could use my kneaded eraser in here, and I can kind of tweak back in some edges. I could pull in some highlights if you want. I know you guys know I am not a big fan, but you could do some smudging in with your fingers. That 6B pencil is going to transfer really nicely. Ooh, sorry about that. And then I could come back in with my kneaded eraser or a regular eraser, that white pearl that you have, and kind of start to pop some light back into places where I want light. Remember those little not hex, what are the arrowhead erasers? You might even like those. Take the end of your pencil and kind of smear out or smudge out a little bit of highlight. Even in the shadows, you might find you have a little bit of area of some highlight in there. Okay. So those of you who think you might use a chalk or a charcoal for this. Okay, back to this one that we sort of were kind of making fun of. Here I've got some vine charcoal. I may do some strokes. And I like to do my landscapes in charcoal because they move much faster for me. I can kind of fleck through some of that to build up some range very quickly. So I'm just kind of barely touching or patting on top of the line. All right, but then watch how I can build almost the same sort of sense of structure. So I could come in and dot